Hello and welcome to Grody and Unprofessional. My name is Justin McMenamy, and my mission is to share both profitable and painful leadership lessons I have acquired over a 20-year career as a misfit in corporate America. In this episode, we discuss Schrodinger's quantum cat, proper lawn chart yeeting techniques, and the incompatibility of jazz musicians in a marching band. We also discuss leadership techniques. Brent Adamson, it is so good to have you as a guest on Grody and Unprofessional. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. I specifically didn't shave just for today. I hope that, I feel like I need to put some dirt on my shirt or something. I don't know.
I can look past the collar. I'll look past the collar, but the unshaven lets you in. That's right.
Okay, very good.
Well
Perfect.
done.
All right. I'm going to have to now stare at you, Justin, for the better part of the next, 20, 40, 50, 2 hours, minutes, right? Who's the baseball player behind your right shoulder?
That is Bob Gibson, pitcher for the Cardinals in the 1960s.
Okay. All right. I feel less bad that I didn't recognize him then. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no. It's a very regional.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He is known for some pretty grody and unprofessional behavior. So he's maybe the hero of the podcast.
Which is different than inappropriate behavior, I assume.
Correct.
Or not.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's
all right,
right.
Just checking.
It also depends on who's measuring the behavior. That plays into it as well.
Choosing a common yardstick is usually important in business and in life. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's kind of where we're at now, isn't it? All right. Okay.
That's right.
On with the show.
On with the show. By way of introduction, Brent, the first time I came across your content was the Challenger sale. I think many people are familiar with that work. I worked at a company called Precision Planting at the time. We had a founder that had exited the business. He had a very unique approach to the customer. He was very intent on teaching the customer, educating the customer, bringing the customer along the path of understanding the problems they had. And the solution, who knew? He offered the solution to the problem that he had helped to lead them towards. And as we came as a group to the Challenger sale, there was very much this experience of us as leaders in precision planting of this is the codification of an experience, of a methodology that we have seen work very, very well. And so as we expanded the business, grew it into new countries, grew it into new markets, we used the Challenger sale as the chassis by which we onboarded new people into the organization, by which we codified what we had experienced in the past. 2 years ago, as I started Grody and Unprofessional, I made a list. I'm not teasing. I made a list of people that I was really, really hoping that I would get to interview. And Brent, your name.
And Matt Dixon was at the top of the list, right?
That's right. And he was busy.
If Matt can't make it, call Brent. I get it. I totally understand. Yeah. Here I am.
So we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about the Challenger sale and some of the more recent work that you're doing as well.
Yep.
But before we get into that, I'm actually very interested in life transitions. A lot of people have transitions in life, transitions in careers, pivots that either they decide that they want to participate in or pivots that are foisted upon them.
That was hair, no hair for me. Yeah. That one was foisted upon me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested. Your path from German professor at Michigan State to researcher at Gartner and that transition. What does that look like, that transition? And how did you process through that?
There's a long version, a short version. I'll give you the shorter version, I guess. In many ways, just my career has got this weird interruption, and about halfway through, or now about a third of the way through now as I get older, I went from a PhD in applied linguistics in German and teaching German at Michigan State University to joining this company called Corporate Executive Board as a researcher in sales, which then eventually, as you mentioned, came to be acquired by Gartner many years later. If you go back over that entire long trajectory, I'm 57 now, so it feels long to me at least. So, it's several decades of work. Really, I've been doing one thing my entire professional career, and that is researching and teaching the heck out of stuff as best as I possibly can, going after really big, hard questions and trying to understand, just like you do in your field, is like, how do I take this really complex thing and unpack it and understand it and come up with solutions that no one even thought were possible, which is a lot of where the spirit of Challenger comes from too. It just so happens that I used to be doing that with foreign language education and classroom learning and things like that. And then at some point halfway through tenure, I realized, after 15 years of graduate school and being a professor, I woke up one morning and had this realization, like, you can't actually make money doing this. And
that wasn't on the pamphlet, was it?
It really wasn't. There's a longer story about being a professor and the life of an academic, which is probably an episode in itself that no one cares about, but it's actually a really interesting thing to talk about. But one way or another, I decided this is not the life for me. I went back to business school and got my MBA at Michigan while teaching at Michigan State. The day my students found that out, they almost killed me.
For sure.
But it just so happened that this company, CEB, was hiring that year. And so for those who don't know CEB, probably most of your listeners, this is a company that researched and taught the heck out of all the different functions around the C-suite, as we used to say. So they had an HR practice, a sales practice, marketing, operations, all that kind of stuff. And it was our goal to go on, essentially Challenger in many ways was autobiographical to what we used to do at that company, which is go out and find these really hard questions, figure out the counterintuitive way to think about that question, not only to answer it, but to ask it to begin with, and then go find a lot of data, research, and evidence to back up a new perspective and then share it with the world. And that's what we did. And I did that for 17 years. And it just so happens that the job that was available when I applied to CEB back in 2003 happened to be in the sales practice. I mean, it could have been HR, it could have been operations, it could have been supply chain, but it was sales. So giddy up. And here I am all these years later talking to sales and marketers about what they do. Life is weird. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you started in essence with who you are as the continuum through the change.
Yeah.
You said, I am a researcher. You used an I am phraseology.
I did, didn't I? Yeah. Not
and
I do. Yeah.
And I appreciate that because that for me, both as I think about major changes that I've had to make in my career and as I coach others and talk to others about major changes and they come to this situation, it might be financial. There's a lot of people that are in mission-based, whether it be teaching, whether it be serving in society, and they come and they've got kids mid-career and the math just isn't mathing the right way.
Yeah. Yep.
There's other people that get the pink slip.
Yep.
The first place to go is who are you?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be rather than what do you want to be? Because if you start heading down the wrong hallway and it doesn't line up with core values or it doesn't line up with different life components, you end up kind of having to back out of the hallway anyway. And so I appreciate that where you landed is I'm a teacher. And I can be a teacher at Michigan State and German can be the topic. Or I can be a teacher at CEB and sales can be the topic. I'm a researcher and a teacher. I love that mentality.
If you're interested, there's two quick thoughts on that. One is what you just said is 100% right, 100% logical, and 100% believable. It's like sign me up for everything you just said. The one downside challenge to it is what if you don't know? Do you know what I mean?
Certainly.
And this was my challenge back then, and through a lot of dark days as a grad student, all those years, working on my dissertation, feeling I don't think I'm in the right place, but it led to so what is the right place? And it would lead to questions like, who am I? Or even deeper, what makes me happy? And it's like, what do you do when you look inside and you find nothing but question marks? And that's a really uncomfortable and scary place to be, right? Which is, again, we all sign up for the logic of follow what's right for you, but what if you're not sure? Follow who you are. It's like, It's great advice,
Sure.
and I'm with you, man. I totally agree, but now I'm 57. I still don't really know. You know what I mean? If there's one sort of lesson or conclusion I take out of it, it's heart and soul of Challenger. It's heart and soul of the new work I'm doing now, but it's heart and soul of sort of my life experience. And particularly as a father, I'm 20 years into being a father now. Not a dang one of us knows what we're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
None of us know what we're doing. We're all kind of making this up as we go. And I can't decide if that's terrifying or really reassuring, but depending on the day, it's a little bit of both, I think.
As an engineer, I come to the conclusion that the only way to solve the problem is to first define the problem.
Yeah.
And it was an unlocking event for me in my career.
Yeah.
And I repeat the same thing over and over again. Whoever your CEO is, he or she doesn't know. They are guessing. The world is very dynamic. The competition is very dynamic. Technology is very dynamic. The governmental environment is very dynamic. All of this is dynamic. There's a guess and check methodology that's being used. And of course they want to be as informed as possible. They're not just yeeting a dart at a wall and seeing what it hits. Maybe some are. Maybe in hindsight there are a few that are. And I would, to that same point, we're not all sure exactly who we are. I'd be interested in your advice. My advice when somebody says, I don't know who I am or who I want to be, the two things that I've known to do is one, talk to as many people as possible. Talk to as many people as possible. Not that any one person has all of the answers, but you get done with a conversation and one or two nuggets will connect and say, yeah, that's a way of thinking about it that does connect or that does direct in a direction that I want to go. And then the other one is run experiments. And maybe that's a very engineering way to think about it. Volunteerism needs, if it's leadership or if it's creativity or any of the disciplines, the volunteer world, whether it be in your community, in the government, in your faith organization, there is ample opportunity to test drive things before you buy them by quitting your job or getting another job.
You know, it's interesting. I can just tell how. So I love talking to you. We had a long conversation today, and we just hit it off right away. At least I thought we had something there, Justin. But but I could also start picking up like just how different we are, because everything you just described for someone like me is like what I like to do in a situation like that when I'm not sure and I'm unsure and I'm confused is to crawl into the corner in the fetal position and rock back and forth and just kind of hum quietly to myself.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And so everything you just suggested, I won't argue with. It's like, but it all gives me hives. Do you know what I mean? It's like you want me to go out in the world and talk to people and interact and join. What now? You want me to do what? Right? And it's like, I just feel for people who are introverted almost to, I wouldn't say to a fault, but to a high degree. And what do you do when like a lot of the right, quote unquote, right answers, the things that will help you get out of these places require you to stretch yourself from a mentality perspective in ways that are really, really hard. All of that to say is for those people out there hearing this conversation thinking like, I don't know what to do, I just massive amount of respect and sort of just understanding with you. Life is hard. Yeah.
Don't misinterpret that I actually default to doing any of those things. I'm also preaching that into the mirror as well. Right. I too, in my career, I would say there are 4 or 5 years of huddled up, sitting in the corner, rocking back and forth, saying I'm not in the right place, but I don't know where I should be, and I'm sure every other place has the same problems as this one. So there is some hindsight here. I've had to preach these same things to myself, like, okay, we're in a paradox. Yeah. You can't solve a paradox. The only way to get a paradox broken is to add information to it. And I've noodled this thing every way from sideways. I can't solve it. Let's at least go get a new piece of information, and hopefully the puzzle starts to make a scent of more sense. But I would say for myself, my default is also the fetal position. That's probably been my default as well.
Well, that just means you're a human being like the rest of us. That's a total, I get it.
Correct.
Two thoughts. One is, well, this became like a self-help podcast. I didn't see it going there. But
yes, it did.
Wait, what? I thought we were talking about sales. So that's all good. Because this one is sometimes the best way to take care of yourself is to take care of someone else. Right? Whether it's a friend, a family member, a child, a dog. I mean, like literally just the act of providing care and compassion and protection can be incredibly powerful. And the second one, which is also indicative of the fact that I didn't know who the baseball player was behind you, is I didn't grow up super athletic. I was in the library doing math problems. But the physical exercise, you know, when I turned 40, which was many, many years ago, shortly thereafter, I had to lose a bunch of weight because the doctor told me to, and I fixed that by never going to the doctor again. But eventually I got it figured out, and I started running. And I dropped the weight and all that kind of stuff, and I became a little bit more fit. But what I hadn't anticipated, Justin, was what everyone had said, and I just didn't believe it. Exercise, running, I mean, it doesn't matter that it's running. You know, these days for me, it's Peloton. I had not anticipated what exercise does for your mental health. It is mind-boggling. For those who don't exercise regularly, this isn't about physical health and all that. It is, but like if you've got challenges on the mental health side, exercise, the single best thing you could do for yourself. It's what at least that's me projecting, but boy, is that true for me.
It's been my experience as well.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
It helps move the compass on how cloudy or bright the outlook is.
Yeah. It totally changes your body chemistry and your mental, what's going on in your brain. It's wild. Anyway, there you go. I think we solved that. What's next?
All right, moving on.
But I still can't get over yeeting a dart. I've never heard the word yeet. Like you're not just throwing darts; you're yeeting them. You're
yeeting them.
That stuck with me. Yeah,
that's the component of having a 15 and a 12-year-old at home. We don't throw things around here; we yeet them at each other.
Yeah, it takes me back to when I was a kid when we had jarts, which you probably do. You know what a jart is? Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I have a gaping hole in my thigh. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like let's throw it up in the air and see how far we can get it in the sky and see if I can catch it on the way down.
Yeah, nobody read the instructions on the game.
Why would you do that? Who thought that was a good idea?
This is an aluminum arrow that we can throw at each other. I don't know what the rest of the stuff in the box was for.
It didn't matter.
So reining this back in a little
Good
bit,
luck.
as we think about the challenger sale,
Yeah.
there is a temptation by many people in society to say, I'm not in sales.
Yeah.
I don't have a sales goal. I'm not compensated off of sales.
Yeah.
As you think about the challenger sale, how does it apply? We haven't even said what it is. We're going to wait till the end. We're going to use the challenger sale as part of the episode. We're not even going to tell them what it is till the end.
All right.
But it is to say, I have found a lot of value from studying sales techniques as a byproduct of helping myself as a leader. How would you describe the value of studying something like the challenger sale or sales techniques as building myself as a leader, even in engineering or accounting or HR?
So the challenger sale, in a lot of ways, so it's got the word sale right in it, and it was written for a sales audience, and it was all the research was based on sellers engaged in selling, trying to get customers to buy things. But what most people wouldn't appreciate because they wouldn't know is that for me personally, the book is actually deeply autobiographical. It is essentially, it's a description based on a lot of bar charts of just how I look at the world and how I interact with people around me. And I'm actually not in sales. I'm a sales anthropologist. I'm also now a business owner, so I'm in sales every single day because I'm trying to feed my family. And I've been on the thousands of sales calls as the expert and all that kind of stuff. So I know the world really well. But in a lot of ways, what we capture in the challenger sale is just a description of how I interact with my students as a teacher, for example. So at the end of the day, and there's actually two Challenger books. The second one's called The Challenger Customer. And this is the opening. It's been a while since I looked at it. I think it's chapter 3. But it opens with this idea that we all sell the same thing. Bear with me for those, because your question is really people not in sales. But for those of us in sales, whether you sell irrigation equipment or data and research or capital equipment or business or whatever, we all sell the same thing. Every one of us, big or small. And what we're really selling, Justin, I think more than anything else, is change. We're trying to get our customers to stop doing one thing and start doing another, right? Stop buying from this person, start buying from us. Stop doing it yourself and outsource to us. There's all sorts of different versions, but one or another, every single motion in B2B sales, and to some ways B2C sales, boils down to asking your customer to do something different. And if you think about it from the B2B side, what's the one thing customers all want to be avoiding if they possibly can? It's change. Why? Because it's hard, it's unknown, it's risky. It's just like us as individuals, right? Is why don't we all embrace change? Because it kind of freaks us out for all sorts of, frankly, justifiable reasons, right? And so then it becomes this really interesting question. If you start looking at Challenger not so much as a selling story, but a change story, how do we engage people such that we can help them change their behavior, hopefully in a materially positive way? Then I think it starts applying across the board. And to give you a sense, without going into details, depending on your listener, some will be totally geeking out on this and someone's like, what are we even talking about? So let me see if I can make everyone unhappy and capture it in one concept. And it's called the A to B. And this is something I believe in so much at the company I'm building with my co-author in my new book. We actually call it A to B Insight. It's based on this idea. Just think of literally just the capital letter A, the capital letter B connect with an arrow. So an A with an arrow pointing to the B. So just think of that, sort of visualize that in your head. So if you think about the A, think of the A as your, I will say customer, but customer could be your student, it could be your spouse, it could be just whoever you're talking to or engaging with. It could be your employee if you're a CEO, to your earlier question, right? But think of A as the person you're engaging with, their current state of beliefs, their current behaviors, what they're doing, what they're thinking right now. B is where you're trying to get them. So it's the desired set of behaviors, the desired set of beliefs, right? So A is what's current versus sort of preferred or desired. So I'm trying to get you to move from A to B, right? What we find, broadly speaking, more often than not, I'll give you the sales version. So in sales, what we find is most sellers will do one of two things. They'll either engage customers with a conversation about their product, my features, benefits, all the things like, here's why we're great. And it's like, enough about me. Now you talk about me, right? But to some degree, some of the better ones will focus not so much on their product, but they'll focus on that B state. It's like the castle on the hill. Let me paint the picture of how good the world could be if you just embrace this new perspective or this new solution. Let me tell you about how in your world, the amazing crop yields that you could generate if you were just to engage in this kind of irrigation system. I made that up. Hope they sounded kind of relevant to your world, right? But one way or another, we disproportionately, massively disproportionately focus on the B. We talk about the better state, the better world. And a lot of self-help is about this. It's about the better state, the better world. And what we find in business is more often than not, customers will look and say, they'll agree with you. They'll look you right in the eye and agree with you and say, yep, that is better. And if you're a seller, particularly on commission, you're going to hear that and say, oh, they love me. This is great. This is going really, really well. They love what I'm saying. I'm putting it down, and they are picking it up. Man, I'm going to Cancun next year on the Sales Presidents Club. I'm going to get me a Lucite trophy. I'm going to put on my credenza. Nobody knows what a credenza is unless you live in Iowa, but credenza, right? It's the same place they call couches Davenports. I love the Iowans. But nonetheless, what you find is that customers will look you in the eye and say, I love it. That's amazing. This is great. But then, right when you think you've built momentum, you're going to drive change, they say, but what we're doing right now is nowhere near that good. That's so much better. But we got this problem, we got this issue, we got that priority, we got that. So while what you're suggesting is better than what we're doing right now, given all those other obstacles, I think really what we're doing right now is going to have to be good enough. And do you think, well, oh man, good enough? What, you're going to stay on status quo? Clearly, I must have failed. I must have failed to really. Did you not hear how great this was? Let me double down. Let me explain one more time just how amazing this new solution is. So you double down on like getting on your quote unquote your value proposition. You spend even more time talking about it, and you just keep winding up in the same place over and over again as they say, no, you had me. Hello, I love you. I'm still not going to date you, right? Everything can be tied back to high school dating, and this is the same thing. So what happened in this scenario? I think where we lost the battle was not in conveying the value of the B, which is where we go. It was failing to fully convey the pain of the A. In other words, all this is going to a simple phrase. Here's the bumper sticker phrase. Is before we build up the B, we got to break down the A. We've got to show customers or whoever we're talking to how their current behavior, their current beliefs is costing them money, exposing them to risk, leading to forego opportunity that they haven't fully appreciated, right? And it's very much like when I went to the doctor when I was 42. This is a true story. I went to the doctor. I was way overweight. And she looked at me and said, you're way overweight. You're going to have high blood pressure. If you don't change things, I'm going to put you on high blood pressure medicine. Here's a diet. Go follow it. And I solved that by never going to that doctor again. And it's because she kind of said, here's the behaviors you should engage in. But she didn't really paint the picture. Like, I don't know if it's a good doctor or a bad doctor, but the doctor I needed was the doctor said, let me explain to you exactly what's about to happen in your life as a result of your current behavior. Let me show you the risks that you're. And by the way, and it's the fully loaded cost. It's not just like you're going to have heart palpitations. It's like, have you talked about how long you're going to be around for your kids? You know what I mean? It's like paint the bigger picture. All of that to say, boy, I went on long. I apologize for this, but Challenger is this approach of helping customers understand the cost of inaction. And I think if you're in the business of helping people or getting people to engage in change, before you build up the B, you got to break down the A. You got to help them understand the cost of inaction. Our friends at ADP way back when, they have a phrase for this, is I have to teach you that the pain of same is actually greater than the pain of change. Because we look at change, we think it's hard, it's costly, it's frustrating, it's risky, it's I don't know, I don't want to do that. This change is hard. But what if the pain of same was even greater than the pain of change? Then all of a sudden the math flips, and it's like, oh, actually, okay, yeah, it's hard, but this thing I'm doing now, that's even worse. That's Challenger in a nutshell.
And that's where I saw the translation directly into leadership. Because as a leader, whether it's in mentoring someone professionally, whether it's leading an organization to improvement, even if it's launching a product as an engineer, a big part of your day is trying to be a force multiplier, which is to have the team work more effectively and more in the right direction as a direct result of your words and your actions. And part of that is conveying, to your point, not just a future state, just saying, hey, we're going to be 100% better at product quality next year. Or we're going to be 5% better at cost structure next year, but also defining the current state and the path. Another word picture that was very helpful for me as I thought about the Challenger sale is Chip and Dan Heath's elephant, rider, and path, where you're speaking to the intellect, you're speaking to the emotion, and you're laying out the pathway, not just saying, we got to get there, we got to get there, we got to get there. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell in one of his books that even talks about heart patients that have had heart surgery. Still massive amounts of them continue in their diet, even though they have been subjected to the costs of their lifestyle. If they're only engaged at an intellectual level or a get better level, you don't see substantive change. As a leader, whether you're a salesman leading a customer to a path or a leader within accounting leading your team to a path, there is a process, there is an archetype that allows for the recipient of the information to process the information and implement the information to move to the B state. in your words.
What's interesting to me, you mentioned engineers, for example. So I'm not an engineer, but I grew up in a family of engineers, so I know you guys pretty well, and I have great love for you and significant real admiration for how engineers think. But what's interesting in this model that we were just discussing, where I think a lot of engineers have real disadvantage, for them, the quote-unquote right answer, let's say the better answer, is just almost obvious, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like you can do the math in your head. You can see the logic. It's almost like a Spock sort of thing, and I mean that with much respect. You know what I mean? But it's like,
certainly,
it's so obvious. Why would you ever not do this? Do you know what I mean? What's interesting is to try to get into someone's A state and understand why they may not change it. Sometimes the reasons for them staying on the A state have nothing to do with the logic of the value of the B state.
Certainly.
Right? And if you think of this with blinders on of just, I'm just looking at profitability or payback period or efficiency models or whatever it is, it seems obvious that you'd move from A to B. But if I look at it from the perspective of the person that I'm trying to get to change, and all of a sudden I realize, oh, there's other variables that they're considering that are well outside of my consideration set, all of a sudden it starts to make a little bit more sense. It's like, so from my perspective, it's like, why would you even worry about that? Well, because they're different than you. You know what I mean? And so all of this is to say, this really takes more than logic. It takes empathy. If you're going to help someone move off of their A state, you have to go reside inside of their A state and see the world from their eyes. And it sounds sort of like, oh, how did we get here? But I mean, this is legitimately true. If you really want to
100%.
influence people, you have to be able to see the world from their perspective. This is, by the way, where we are in this country right now. Not to go there, but I just did, right? What left or right, red or blue, or whatever color you want to ascribe to yourself, so many of us, and I think the vast majority of us right now, partly exacerbated by social media, have completely lost or just walked away from the ability or even the effort to try to see the world from someone else's perspective. And it's really, really hard to drive change if you can't occupy the view, the perspective of someone else, because I can't force you along. I got to bring you along, but I have to come with you. So I have to kind of go over to your side and come with you. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I didn't mean to go there, but I think we're all kind of thinking about these things right now in our world, right? But what's funny is these things that apply in our society right now as a country are like every day in sales and every day in leadership and in engineering decisions and project management. It's because we're all human beings, aren't we?
Correct. And that's what I loved about the Chip and Dan Heath analogy of the rider and the elephant. The rider is the intellect and the elephant is the emotion.
Yep.
And it's a very visual picture. You say, okay, you yell up to the rider and say, go left. And the rider tries to go left, but the elephant doesn't want to go left. It doesn't matter at that point what the rider wants or doesn't want. There's an animal that isn't intellectual. It doesn't understand what you're saying. It doesn't care what you're saying. It has its own motivations.
Yep.
And I think you're right. The temptation of an engineer is to say, the rider, it's obvious. It's clear where the rider should go. Why are we debating?
Totally.
And myself as an engineer, I would say I even underestimate my own elephant in decisions.
Yeah.
You know, even myself, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why is this block of cheese still going into my mouth? I don't understand. Intellectually, to use a stupid analogy,
and yet here
intellectually, I shouldn't be doing this, but why is the elephant still feasting on this? You touched on it exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's in politics, whether it's in leadership, or whether it's in sales, the ability to walk a mile in the person's shoes, empathize with the intellectual and emotional state that the person is in, and then find the path to help lead them from that state. Politics, it would just be the ability to sit at the same table with one another, but in a sales or in a leadership role to help lead them. And particularly, I think about leadership not in the sense of let's lead a sales organization to 5% more of sales next year. I think about a mentorship relationship, whether it's a person coming in a one-on-one setting and saying, I want to grow into leadership. It's not just sitting there and drawing the 10 disciplines that lead to leadership. It's about understanding where the person is, how they internalize information, and getting them to a path where they understand how to get where they want to go.
What gets me personally in trouble in this respect over and over and over again, and I just keep having to learn this lesson the hard way, is something called a projection bias, which is just this default assumption that other people think like I do, right? Which is, thank God, rarely true, because otherwise the world would be a disaster. And I think we all fall prey to this sometimes. When things feel obvious to you, and yet it's not happening, change or whatever it is. And so do you think, well, what the bleep's the problem? Is it It's because not everybody sees the world the way that you do, right? And if you're going to drive change, particularly as a leader, this is why I've been an individual contributor my whole career, because it's just so much easier. Because then as a leader, that means you actually have to go to the effort of not just trying to understand the world from their perspective, but you have to be open to understanding that their worldview may be very different than yours. And just accepting that, not trying to like fix it, but just saying, okay, that's your starting point. And it wouldn't have been my starting point because that's nuts or that's crazy or that's different.
That's right.
But it just is.
Yep.
So much about life is just, it just is. And so we just have to kind of accept it and then kind of work from that point. And it's, it can be a little hard sometimes.
100%. In the book, you describe a few personality characteristics. I think even before you get to discussing the challenger sale, you discuss different personalities, and you discuss the hard worker. This is a person that has their nose to the grindstone. If 30 cold calls is good, 40 is better.
Even better.
If 10 customer meetings is good, 15 is better. You talk about the relationship builder, and I think this is a lot of what you think about 1960s selling, which is the beers and buddies style of selling. Yep. If you and I are the best of friends, if we're on the same bowling team, that's what's needed to close the deal.
As a footnote, just don't you wish you could have been selling in the 60s and 70s?
Oh, man.
Doesn't it sound amazing?
I think I'd have been really good at that.
I know, right? The people all talk, back in the days of the 3 martini lunch. Like, when was that? Could I, like, that sounds amazing.
That's right. If I could have a time warp, that's where I'm heading right there.
It's like the sales version of Mad Men, I guess, right? It sounds
exactly.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's right. The lone wolf. This is a person that is very, very self-confident, very, very independent. They're the cowboy. They are a man or a woman unto themselves. And one of the aspects of the lone wolf that I think all of us experience is they're not really interested in helping the rest of their team. There can be a very selfish, whether it's real or observed. Yeah, I think there's an observation there that could happen that might not be intended. But there's a selfishness that can perceived. Yeah. Then the reactive problem solver that you talk about, which is really a customer service rep in salesman's clothing. Yep. The challenger is the last one that you introduce. If you wouldn't mind, introduce us to the challenger personality.
The challenger, as we like to say, is sort of the debater on your team. So they've got this deep knowledge of the customer's business, but they use that deep knowledge of the customer's business not necessarily to simply just agree with them, but to challenge their thinking, to share with them different perspectives, ideas, insights that might show them ways to think about their own business in ways that they themselves haven't even occurred to them, right? So I can maybe show you ways to make money or save money or mitigate risk in ways you haven't fully appreciated. Traditionally in sales, I don't want to overstate it, but often in sales traditionally, there has been this belief that the customer's always right. And in many ways, Challenger takes the exact opposite perspective, which is what if the customer's actually wrong, or at least wrong about something about their own business. And it's not wrong about, and to the degree we think, well, they're wrong about our product. It's like, it's amazing and they think it stinks, right? Or they're wrong about our value. They think it's this much and we think it's that much. But no, that's not it. It's what if the customer is quote unquote wrong about their own business? And what I mean by that is what if they think that their cost structure is this, but once you add in all the fully loaded hidden costs that they haven't appreciated, their cost structure is that. It's much higher. Or what if they think their big opportunities here? It turns out their big opportunities over there, and we know that through data analysis that we've done through other customers like them or what have you. The challenger comes to the table in a customer interaction not with a load of questions that they want to ask. What's keeping you up at night? What do you have to get right this year? What are your top needs? How can I help, right? All of which are exhausting and no one's got time for. Rather, the challenger comes to the table with an insight, a perspective, an idea, not about their company, but the customer's company that is potentially materially valuable to that customer. The conversation starts on equal footing. I'm not, please, sir, may I have a sales conversation? It's not that. It's rather, it's like, I feel completely legitimate in asking you for some of your time because I have something of real value that I think would be incredibly relevant to you that I'd love to share with you. And that's the sort of posture of a challenger. They start with insight rather than just empty questions.
Yeah. One question I have about the challenger personality. Across my experience, I've seen this. Yeah. The challenger personality can work really, really well when interacting with the customer. That same personality focused internally can often be perceived poorly. A certain leadership doesn't like to be challenged, and the challenger goes around challenging, not being a jerk, not being cruel, but asking questions, seeking insight, looking for inefficiencies. And there are certain leaderships in certain companies that just say, hey, you go do your job. Don't ask me. I don't want to be challenged. I'm the leader. I'm right. Just do what you're said to do. And oftentimes the challenger personality, in my experience, struggles in an environment where they're just told what to do. They want some rationale behind it. They want to understand why we're doing this thing. They want to be part of the conversation about, here's my observation, here's my perspective. Have you seen where challengers are amazing at selling, but oftentimes can create friction with their own leaders inside of the sales organizations that they serve?
I think it's a great question, and the answer is yes. I mean, I think about my last few years at Gartner. The culture at Gartner was very, very different than the culture at CEB, and I mean this in no disrespectful way, but sort of we were all born challengers at CEB. Like that was how we were all wired, was to challenge each other. To literally, the whole company was built on this idea of reframing people's thinking, right? So we would get into conference rooms, and we would argue aggressively with each other because that was how we turned coal to diamonds. And by the way, that only works if you trust each other, right? Which is kind of part of what you're saying. It's like I can go into a conference room with 2 or 3 of my colleagues, and we can literally just duke it out till 5. And but we'd go late. We go sometimes till midnight, 1 in the morning, where the conference room with no windows would stink like takeout Chinese, like really bad. And we would argue. Not just like we'd have a friendly debate. I mean, like we would go at it, and sometimes, frankly, we'd get a little heated. But that's how we made diamonds. The only reason it worked, Justin, is because we trusted each other. It's hard to overstate that. If you're working in an environment where people don't expect that kind of behavior, or they don't know where it's coming from, it can be seen as either off-putting, obnoxious, or threatening in all sorts of different ways, right? And also, if you're working in an environment that's very much to your point about process, just like, will you just do your job? There's not a lot of space for someone with that kind of mentality to operate, right? So when Gartner took over, the reason why they bought CB, not the other way around, is because they're a process-oriented company. They figured out a way to stamp out processes around insight and grow to a $4 billion company. For me personally, I jokingly tell people I felt like a jazz musician playing in a marching band. Do you know what I mean? And that sometimes can be what it feels like to be a challenger in an environment where they're not really looking to be challenged. What I've also come to appreciate, though, is like, I don't know that I was right and they were wrong, or they were right and I was wrong. It was just a fit problem. Do you know what I mean? And so ultimately, I got organ rejected. It's kind of like, I didn't get fired, but it's like the last thing my manager told me is like, if you could just be a little bit more Gartner, that would be great. It's like, okay, I can see where this is going. Do you know what I mean? What's also interesting to me, though, and this is not taken out of Gartner CB, but in broader context of organizations, I've seen how those cultures can change on a dime when a single leader leaves and someone else comes in.
Yes.
And it can change either way, right? Literally some of the smartest heads of sales I've ever known in my life, brilliant progressive thinkers who've just come to whatever point in their career, usually retirement, they step down, someone else takes over, and the entire culture will flip 180 degrees in a matter of weeks, and years of work go out the window. That's the broader picture within these challengers are trying to challenge internally, is it's a very fluid environment in which that happens. There's all sorts of factors. But the other part of that I would say is, it's what you already said, which is Matt Dixon, my co-author on The Challenger Sale. He's a friend of mine, a good friend. He often jokes, like, we called it the challenger. We didn't call it the jerk, right? So challengers, one of the first early days when I first started presenting challenger to big sales organizations, there was one company in the CAD/CAM software business. It was their global sales meeting. So they had sellers from all over the world there. I was like 500-600 people in a room in Las Vegas. For whatever reason, the Japan team was sitting together at one table, and they were in the front of the room, and they were not having it. They were just, Justin, they were not having it. Do you know what I mean? We did like a 15 minutes at your table, discuss the following question sort of thing. So we were doing some exercise, and I was wandering around the room, and I got to their table, and it was clear that this is being organ rejected from the. They said, Brent, and we finally got there. Their English was amazing, and my Japanese is non-existent. But we got there, and they said, you don't understand. This is just what you're saying is not acceptable in Japan. You can't show up to a customer and tell them that they're wrong. This is like literally offensive beyond even being considerable. Do you know what I mean? Like you're well beyond the point of relevance for us. Now it's my turn to be a challenger to them, right? So what I've learned, here's my rule in life, Justin. So if I write the next book, this will be one of the chapters. The best way to tell someone they're wrong is to first tell them that they're right. But here's the caveat, is when you tell them they're right, you have to mean it. When I looked at them and they said, Brent, this won't work, I looked at them and said, you know what, guys, you're right. And I meant it, which is if they were to take what I was putting down in exactly that package and put it out into the society or their business in Japan, it would be a disaster. I said, but let's take a minute, just think about, I imagine you got 1 or 2 customers that are particularly good. Yep. Okay. Think about what makes them good customers. They grow with us. They collaborate with us. Like, why do they do that? Why do they stick around and grow with you over time? Well, it's because they've come to trust us. Why do they come to trust us? Well, because when we interact with them, we share new ideas and we help them become more competitive. I said, great. So that's all we're talking about. And they said, oh, that's what you mean? So yeah, that's what I mean. So, okay, yeah, we can do that. All of that to simply say that really good challengers can adapt their ideas, their insights, their presentations to their audience. And that's critical. It goes back to the empathy point yet again, doesn't it? You can't just bulldoze your way through the world with Challenger or with Insight. You have to be agile with it, I think, is really the important lesson there.
Adaptability, that's the word that I wrote down as I was preparing for the conversation. And there are organizations, I've experienced them, I've seen them, I've researched them, they can flip on a dime. There is generally a group that embraces creativity, adaptability, and generally another group that I call the optimizers that really does believe that growth comes through rigidity and repeating a process that wins. The best organizations, as I see it, are ones that can live in an ambidextrous world and have a mechanism in their organization that allows for fluidity and adaptability. And that could be by discipline, where the sales team has a fluidity nature and the operations team has less of a fluidity nature. That could be by business unit, where one industry, because of its nature, is more fluid, and another industry, because of its nature, is more rigid.
Yeah.
My main goal in life as a leader, those two people generally believe the other one is destroying the company.
Right.
The rigid group wakes up every day and looks at the fluid group and says, you're going to screw it up.
Yep.
We have the process that wins, and you're not going with the process, and you're going to destroy this place because of your mindset. And the fluid group looks at the rigid group and says, you're not adapting to the market, to the technology. And generally speaking, leadership's role in an ambidextrous organization is diffusing that almost daily.
Yep.
Because they wake up daily believing, see, he's going to do it again.
Yep.
I know he's going to do it again. He's doing it again. Why are you letting him do it? What you've observed is absolutely true, that as organizations grow, their risk tolerance decreases because they have more to defend.
Yeah.
And they believe that scale comes through rigidity. And so an archetype of leader emerges that is less tolerant to being challenged, is more stick to the script. And what you see in general is that the organization has a line change of mid-level leaders and individual contributors that more are aligned, and you said not right, not wrong, but fitment, 100%. This is the arc that many companies go through upon acquisition, over and over again.
100%.
At the day of acquisition, the CEO says, I'm here buying you because of who you are and how creative you are and how nimble you are, and we need to be more nimble. And then most of the actions over the next 18 months are a demonstration of, let us add some concrete to your water because you need to stop being crazy. And it's not necessarily the CEO is engaged in all of those conversations, but the head of HR, the head of purchasing, the head of logistics, the head of engineering, they got to where they are in the big company because of their adherence to rigidity. And it is an undermining to their philosophy to have one node in the organization that gets to be Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, who doesn't have to follow the rules and gets favoritism and on and on and on. That was not where I was intending to go with the conversation, but it is to say what you experienced at Gartner CEB, it is the story.
It is the story. It's not just common, it is inevitable. Yeah.
To your point, what you did, and also what I had to do, is this isn't evil, but it isn't a fitment with how I am wired. And the nice part about American capitalism is I can go respawn somewhere else, either in a thing that I build out of my own or join other organizations that are in another phase, and continue to advance the way that I enjoy interacting.
So the thing I think is really interesting about this, Justin, is the scenario you just painted, which I think is 100% accurate. When you have this sort of these two different perspectives or two different sides, most people who are at least inside the trenches will get into this question of, it's like, who's right? In other words, it has to be the zero-sum thing of like, we're right, they're wrong. Why do they think like that? Which is, well, actually, there's a good reason why they think like that. But the flip side is equally true, right? It's really interesting when you get into Schrodinger's cat sort of stuff, like the cat in the box is both dead and alive until you open it, and then one of the two quantum states actually manifests itself, right? It's like, people don't like quantum states. People don't like quantum energy because it's like, how can two seemingly opposing things exist at the same time? I'm one of those people, like, I'm the exact opposite. It's like, well, yeah, let's roll with that. Like, what if both of these things are true? That's a really interesting leader who can sort of not only manage, but manage to create a world where both of those two things can coexist at the same time. How do I manage a world where the Schrodinger cat's box is still closed? And yet it's like, ooh, that got deep. But we all feel like we have to open the box to look at the cat. And then that's where things go wrong. I just think I lost 50% of your listeners right there. They have no idea what I'm talking about. But
they're all Googling Schrodinger's cat.
It's with an umlaut over the O. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Though it's like how can two opposites coexist? And I think to the degree that we can find a world where we can accept and actually live comfortably in a dialectic. There's another fancy word. In a world where two different things can be equally true at the same time. That's power. That's flexibility.
Brent, I can't thank you enough. I have greatly appreciated our time together. If you wouldn't mind sticking around for another episode, I would love to continue digging into lessons on leadership, which can be gleaned from your work with Challenger Sale. I'd also like to talk about your recent research that you've entitled The Frame-Making Sale. And I also want to discuss your observation on Mike Tyson as a father. For whatever reason, it seems like that's something that you would have an opinion on.
Man, that was awesome, Jess. That was full on Joe Rogan, right? It was like, we could go another hour. But yeah, no, happy to. Man.
Thanks a bunch, my friend.
Absolutely.
For those that wish to share praise, feedback, accolades, or large sums of money, you can reach me at justin@grody.io. For those with complaints, concerns, frustrations, or accusations, or if you would like to support Grody Unprofessional by hiring me to mow your yard, you can send a note to 6151 Richmond Street, Miami, Florida. And finally, thank you for being a friend. Thanks for your time. Let's do this again soon.